Happy December 10th, and welcome to MicroStrategy Today, the only daily show that is bringing you insights of MicroStrategy 7 days a week. Today, we're going to be talking about Michael Saylor smashing that buy button, acquiring more Bitcoin for you, for me. We're going to talk about the ATM, the at the market selling, and exactly when there's a blackout period coming up. There's some cool intel on that. We have some really interesting clips from Michael Saylor you're not going to want to miss. A very colorful character interviews Michael Saylor, and I have that for you. And oh, so much more. But before we continue, remember this is not financial advice. Do your own research. And today, my friends, looking at the tracker, things are looking good. I mean, yes, the stock price is down, but listen, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. Volatility is a feature, not a bug. That is why it is such an appealing stock to the bond market, to the convertible debt markets. Believe me, up and to the right only is not possible. It won't happen. But guess what? It is a sign of good things to come, in my opinion. The S&P 500 ranking is down to 117 out of 500, still securely in the top 500. Bitcoin right now, as we talk, is at 97.7. So there's been a little recovery in Bitcoin. So we'll see how that impacts MicroStrategy today. But the big news is the Bitcoin balance went up to 423,650 Bitcoin. That's an addition of 21,550 Bitcoin. Let me hit the refresh button here. Let's see. Do we get the confetti? Sometimes it loads and sometimes it doesn't. Oh, here we go. 21,550 Bitcoin acquired. That's exciting. And also loving to see, look at how the Bitcoin value per basic share jumped up to $172.57. That is fantastic. The NAV premium is 2.38xx for a total profit of 15.7 billion and a return of 61.82%. Something good is happening at MicroStrategy. I think you know it. I think I know it. Time will tell. Let's go to the Catalyst tracker because listen, 0 days until Microsoft shareholders vote on Bitcoin. So we're going to get a good indication. Is it going to be 10% vote for it? Is it going to be 50% vote for it? Who knows what that percentage is going to be? But listen, at least this vote is happening. I'm sure this vote is exactly why now the Amazon shareholders are going to be voting later next year on the exact same issue. This is just the beginning. The Magnificent Seven, they're all going to have Bitcoin on their balance sheet at some point. It's just a matter of when. The ones that adopted earlier will be rewarded justly, in my opinion. We'll see. QQQ, just 3 days away. That's the announcement. So we'll see what the QQQ is. And then the QQQ inclusion/reconstitution, that's in 10 days. So that'll be fun if MicroStrategy is, in fact, included. And something about that, by the way, I want to say two things about the QQQ. Number one, Michael, I did some digging for you, and Michael Saylor on a recent interview said he will find out about QQQ when we do. Now, that's what Michael Saylor said. I mean, Michael Saylor said that, so I'm going to believe him. I have no reason not to believe him. But that kind of leads me to believe there is no blackout period leading up to the QQQ inclusion because Michael Saylor doesn't even know if he's going to be included, so he can't do a blackout. That's why he continues to smash this ATM button because he knows that by selling shares at the market, he is acquiring an unbelievable amount of Bitcoin at an unbelievable valuation and price point, in his opinion, in my opinion, possibly in your opinion as well. So we'll see what happens with the QQQ. We'll see how this plays out. But I mean, game theory has been activated, my friends. That is just so fun to me. That is so exciting. So the QQQ, that announcement is coming up. But the other thing that I wanted to mention about that is don't be shocked if the price dips a little bit with the QQQ. I mean, maybe if they announce that MicroStrategy is included in the QQQ, the price might dip. It might not, it might skyrocket, but I'm telling you, be prepared mentally that it might dip. Why is that? There's a very common thing that happens in the financial world, a very common thing. I've been investing and I've been in finance for 25 years now. I've seen it so many times played out. It's called buy the rumor, sell the news. That is such a common phrase. Buy the rumor, sell the news. And it proves to be right time and time again. So the rumor is MicroStrategy is going to be included in the QQQ. So guess what? A lot of people probably bought that rumor. And that was one of the reasons we had the big run up. And then once it's actually announced, a lot of people are like, oh, it's announced. Now it's going to go up even higher. sometimes it goes down at that point because people are selling the news. That's just what some people do. They buy the rumor, sell the news, and some people make a really good living off of that. That's just a fact. So I'm not saying it's going to happen because nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows what Michael Saylor has up his sleeve, but just be prepared mentally because listen, this is a long game. There's a lot of people that are upset that got in at MicroStrategy at 450, 500, 525, whatever price point they got into. That was 13 trading days ago. That's nothing. Have a long-term horizon. If you believe in Bitcoin, if you believe in MicroStrategy and what Michael Saylor is doing, acquiring Bitcoin like he's doing, if you believe in that, man, the future is so bright, but the future is also a nice long ways away. Have a multi-year horizon. That's my desire. That's what I'm having. I'm going into it that way. So yes, I hope the QQQ announcement is awesome and that it boosts the MicroStrategy price. I'd love to see that, of course. But if it doesn't, I want to know why. I want to know that price was already built in. People bought that rumor and now they're selling the news. And that's okay too, because overall, it's an amazing thing for MicroStrategy. Everything's amazing in the world of MicroStrategy, in my opinion, because Bitcoin is perfect capital preservation. It is perfect money, in my opinion. So just want to go on that little rant there. Let's check out some news. MicroStrategy's Bitcoin holdings skyrocket to 423,650 after his $2.1 billion purchase. That is now officially over 2%. High five, my friends. You as a shareholder, me as a shareholder of MicroStrategy, we are a shareholder in a company that owns over 2% of Bitcoin. That is never going to change. That is never going to change the 21 million Bitcoin that are out there. MicroStrategy's total holdings surged to 423,650. It's the leading institutional Bitcoin holder in 2024. Nobody's ever going to catch him, in my opinion. Institutional adoption driven by major players like BlackRock. MicroStrategy underscores a bullish outlook for Bitcoin's long-term potential. Little sneak peek of something we'll be getting to later. Institutional buying. Public companies are joining the Bitcoin bandwagon. They're seeing that MicroStrategy is the number one performing stock over the past year, over the past 4 years. They want more of that. The next news article I want to dive into is MicroStrategy seizes the Bitcoin dip with a $2.1 billion purchase. Again, this is just bad reporting, in my opinion. Michael Saylor never seizes the dip. He doesn't care about a dip. As Michael Saylor has said multiple times, he is buying the top forever. He is just buying Bitcoin as fast and just whenever he can. If he has money, he's buying Bitcoin. He doesn't care if it's the top because he will be buying the top forever. MicroStrategy is not sitting around waiting for a dip. They are trying to say, hey, how do we best engineer at the market our convertible bonds, our convertible debt to get money, trash cash to buy Bitcoin, to increase the Bitcoin yield to you, to me, to our shareholders, and to just continue to strengthen the amazing outlook that is MicroStrategy for the future. The aggressive 21-21 plan, purchasing 42 billion over 3 years. Smash that. I mean, I can't wait for the January Q4 earnings report when they update the plan. I mean, I have no insider information on this, but they're going to update the plan. I mean, that's pretty obvious to me, and that's what I'm hoping for. So that'll be an exciting earnings call. Look at these Bitcoin holdings over time. I mean, he's been acquiring. Whoom. I'm just so happy that I've been a part of it for this. I've really enjoyed that. And my friends, this, when you zoom out, by the way, is going to be a little blip too, as it goes like that on our way to 1,100,000 Bitcoin. Leading the institutional Bitcoin wave, exciting times. Now we're going to get into some tweets. There's some really good tweets today. Number one, Michael Saylor says, there's still too much blue on the sailortracker.com, because the blue is the line, obviously, because he wants a lot of green dots on here. Green dot, green dot, green dot. And now we've added another green dot. I love Sundays because Michael Saylor's been posting these every Sunday and it's been fun. And sure enough, boom, MicroStrategy acquired 21,550 Bitcoin for $2.1 billion and now holds 423,650 Bitcoin. 2% of the Bitcoin supply is secured. Michael Saylor claims he is never selling. Michael Saylor claims he is always buying Bitcoin at the top forever. That is what he is saying. I want to go through this. This is a long tweet by Ben Workman, but this guy's he's a legend when it comes to MicroStrategy, and I'm sure other things too. But specifically MicroStrategy. And I put these tweets in the show notes, like all of the links to everything, the articles, everything. So you can take your time and go back if you want to just go through this at your leisure, because there's a lot here. But I want to just kind of go through this. I'm gonna read out loud pretty quickly because it's powerful. There are a ton of questions today asking, when will Saylor lay off so the share price can rise? Again, this is going back to people complaining about Saylor hitting the ATM, selling the shares, potentially stunting MicroStrategy's stock price. I'm getting the sense the bull run recently brought people's timeframes too short. It's causing some pain right now. Please try to avoid making emotion-driven decisions while the price is running hard. Nothing goes straight up in a line forever. That wouldn't be healthy. The entire design of this equity is that it will rise and fall, generating the volatility Wall Street loves. It's the product they've created. Again, this is what Michael Saylor wants, is volatility. He needs the stock price to go up. He needs it to go down. He needs the volatility. You and I need it. Over time, it's going to be amazing. To give you perspective, I don't think there is likely much laying off the ATM until at minimum the end of the year. At this stage, it seems he has a target for at least 500,000 Bitcoin by year end. And at current prices, that mean he needs another $8 billion in purchases over the next 3 weeks. It's possible that $3 billion comes from a new convertible debt offering before the year closes. So I'll keep you updated on that. So right now he needs $5 billion from the ATM over 3 weeks. Right now they have $9.1 billion left in the ATM. So by year end, this would bring them down to $4.19 billion. My hunch from there is that they will ease off the pace a bit and will try to use that $4.19 billion up in time for the Q1 earnings call, where they will likely announce their next updated plan. And that's what I was referring to. I'm expecting an updated plan to be coming in Q1. Which I can't wait for that earnings call. That'll be so much fun. This is just my speculation, but it leads me to believe that we should temper our share price expectations for the next 3 weeks. Although all of the Bitcoin buying will certainly have some impact on the spot Bitcoin price that could trickle into shares, it's still possible that they allow shares to breathe for the next few days if they get into the QQQ and they let the MNAV expand again for this next ATM. Uses are more accretive to Bitcoin yield, but it all depends on their internal goals, execution, timeliness, and expectations for the market over the next 3 weeks. So listen, let's just enjoy the holidays. Let's enjoy the rest of the year knowing that Michael Saylor has our best interest at heart for 2025. You better believe that. They are on a blistering pace right now, unlike anything we have seen before, and the stock price made a massive repricing, rocketing to new all-time highs over the last couple months. We can't lose sight of that. We can't lose sight of the past gains that have happened. If you're a newer shareholder and you didn't get to enjoy those gains, I get the frustration you're having right now, but believe me, more are to come if Michael Saylor can execute like we both know he's trying to. Patience is key here. We know the strategy and the design. We just need to let it play out and not get ourselves caught in a position where we are 100% directionally correct long-term, but still lose by putting unnecessary timing into our risks, i.e. really short-term options trades. So listen, my friends, Ben is just a voice of reason here. He's just telling it like it is. We have had an unbelievable run of MicroStrategy shares over the past month, 2 months. And listen, people see that and they want to continue to see that forever. But what goes up will come down. And then again, we'll go back up again if MicroStrategy executes correctly. And I believe that they are. Let's move on to this tab right here. Matt says, MSTR has slightly underperformed IBIT, so just slightly over the past 30 days. This is very bullish. The spring is compressing. MicroStrategy has risen almost 400% since the low in August. It was very overheated and overvalued at 540 share in November. MSTR has now stabilized and is growing into its valuation, and day by day becomes cheaper from a valuation perspective. Upside volatility will continue eventually. Listen, this is, to me, I love tweets like this because these are people that take the time to study, that understand, that look at charts, that see the overheatedness. You can see the yellow line here. Let me kind of pull this up now. This is where the iShares was, and boom, 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 boom. So, I mean, it was obviously incredibly overheated at this point. That's just a reality. Let's move into this tab from Punter Jeff. He says, MicroStrategy has accumulated 2% of the hardest money the world has ever seen. For those who need to hear this, this is not bearish. Important statistics below. 1, MicroStrategy raised $15 billion since October 30th. That's 40 days, 25 trading days. That's $625 million per trading day. On average, 4,286 Bitcoin are purchased per day since October 30th. To date, MicroStrategy has utilized almost 12 billion of the 21 billion ATM, 56% planned. This is called under-promising and over-delivering. This is what Michael Saylor is doing. Bitcoin on the balance sheet has increased by 123% this year, 189K to 423. Insanity. MicroStrategy's financial leverage has decreased 148 basis points since last Monday. MicroStrategy has 3.4x the amount of Bitcoin than all the other publicly traded companies combined. I mean, think about that. They have more than 3.4 times the amount of all the other publicly traded companies behind them. Like all of them combined. What this reminds me of, because I was a history major back in the day, this is like back during Great Britain's glory days, during their empire days, when their navy, their goal was to be a 10x larger than the second closest navy. And I think it was 5x larger than all the navies combined in the world. Like that was their mandate. It was somewhere around there. And that was the age of sail. And guess what? Great Britain, this little island, became an empire and ruled the world for a number of years, for a number of decades, for quite a long time. It had its glory years. This is what MicroStrategy is doing, except it's Bitcoin. It's perfect money, so it's not going to be lost in a storm or be losing a battle against Spain or enough of the history. So, anyways, MicroStrategy has 12.5x the amount of Bitcoin that the next closest company traded. That's Mara. That's Marathon. That's a mining company, and they are obsessively trying to increase that right now because they're seeing what's happening with MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy has 3x the amount of Bitcoin that the next closest private company. That's Block.one. That's insanity. Financial strength improving. Competitive moat growing. Game theory escalating. Bewilderment intensifying. Higher. And then here's a chart here if you want to pause and just kind of like consume this. That's kind of like a lot of the stuff that he was talking about here, and very, very interesting. Another post I want to share actually from Punter Jeff said, there's a non-zero probability that Trump signs an executive order establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve within the first 2 weeks in office, January 20th to January 31st. MicroStrategy would be in a blackout period of utilizing ATM prior to 10K earnings release, which is in early February. Michael Saylor is front-running the US government. Now, listen, this is only theory. This is only Punter Jeff theorizing. And guess what? I love having these game theory ideas as well. But what is this exactly? What happens if the US government does start to implement a strategic Bitcoin reserve January 20th? When Trump takes office, he says, Senator Lummis, you run with that. Let's start the strategic Bitcoin reserve. If he says that, the world's going crazy in a great way for us people that are in love with Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, because again, people are going to buy the rumor and they're going to try to sell the news. Maybe they do sell the news, but guess what? If they sell the news in this case, it's going to be selling to the US government, who's going to be buying an ungodly amount of Bitcoin. So what is happening here? MicroStrategy has to go into a blackout period prior to their earnings release. So that earnings release is happening in early February. So Michael Saylor can't hit the ATM if this Bitcoin strategic reserve is in fact happening, which who knows? Time will tell. Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe not right away, maybe later in 2025, maybe 26, maybe 27, who knows? But if it does happen in this manner that Jeff is theorizing that it might happen, think about it. Bitcoin skyrocketing, MicroStrategy. Michael Saylor will not be able to sell ATM, so he's just going to have to sit back and just watch MicroStrategy skyrocket. Game theory is in play, my friends. I hope you are along for the ride. I hope you are excited. This last thing I want to share here, I mean, Jeff has just been on fire these past 24 hours. I mean, I scour Twitter and I scour X to find the best content for you every single day. And sometimes one person is just killing it. And in this case, today is Jeff. A $750 MicroStrategy share price. It would flip BlackRock in market cap. It would put MicroStrategy in the top 50 US public companies. He's like, I don't know what you guys think, but I think Bitcoin is better than Booking.com. Booking has a PE ratio of 35.5 and a net income of 5 billion. MicroStrategy generates $5 billion of net income for every $11,000 increase in Bitcoin. I mean, mind-blowing when you actually understand the numbers and when you understand and believe what is happening. Okay, so now I have two clips for you of Michael Saylor. I think you're going to enjoy both of these. One is pretty funny with a character that interviews him. I recommend watching the whole video if you want to. It's like a 25-minute interview, but I brought the best clip out for you. And the next one's a great clip as well. So enjoy. Michael, take it away.
During the course of this, since you really got involved 2020 COVID, we talked about it a little bit early. You know, you're a smart guy, MIT guy, have you had any doubts at any point? Like, oh, I picked the wrong horse, or you just steadfast, or were you willing to be like, you know what, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I go bust?
In March of 2020, we all get punched in the face. And for 6 months, you're like, well, do I move to Miami? Do I get in the stock market? Do I buy Bitcoin? What do I do? So for about 6 months, I spent trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And we discovered Bitcoin. And I thought, well, it's not without risk, but everything else is worse. Everything else is a fast death or a slow death. So I'm going to do something new. Over the next 4 years, the risk got taken off. The administration embraced it as a commodity, and that was one risk factor taken off. And then we got the ETFs, that was the second risk factor. And then you got the Trump administration embracing it and the red sweep, that's the third risk factor. And then MicroStrategy, we bought 250 million. We bought 250 million at like 11,800 coin, and then it crashed 20%, Dave.
Yeah.
And
right,
we lost $40 million in the next week and a half. And that was,
What are you doing when that happens? Are you like,
I'm figuring out how to buy the next 250 million, because like I'm in, you're
Yeah.
in. Once you're committed, you're in, and I'm like I'm going to ride it to zero or we're going to win. But I've decided I want to win. And I knew that if I didn't play the game, I was certainly going to lose.
Let me ask you about the strategic reserve idea, because it's very interesting. As you point out, it's not a Bitcoin standard. There's been many versions of proposals. Obviously, Senator Cynthia Lummis's Bitcoin Act is one. You said people should sell their gold to buy Bitcoin. That's what the act proposes, right? And there's a bunch of other varieties. How should the government be thinking about this, in your view?
Gold is a shiny, dead rock. Sell it all. Like, if you really want to, if you want to elevate U.S.'s economic leadership in the world, there are two very simple strategies, almost three, but two. Dump the gold and buy Bitcoin, because you simultaneously demonetize the asset held by your enemies. Who owns the gold, right? You just sell it all and demonetize gold once and for all, put a stake in its heart, and buy Bitcoin, and you get 25% of the Bitcoin network for free. But it's better, right? You could just print the money and buy Bitcoin and keep the gold, but it's so much more intelligent to demonetize your enemy's network and everybody else's network. You might as well drive gold from a $20 trillion asset to a $4 trillion asset, devalue the assets of gold held by every non-US entity, drive Bitcoin to the roof, and then have 25% of the Bitcoin network forever. And so that's a very straightforward thing. My second observation is, they ought to just create a normal regime to issue digital currency backed by US treasuries. The US ought to have a framework so Tether relocates to New York City. That's what you want, right? And then you ought to basically have a free-for-all where JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs can issue their own stable coin. People, if you want to be non-constructive, you can fixate on, oh yeah, the US is going, the Bitcoin's going to demonetize bonds. Not really. That's not the constructive thing. I would focus upon the fact that Bitcoin's going to demonetize the S&P index, all your real estate, all your gold, right, and other random store of value assets. US bonds are still going to stick around because banks need to hold them. The regulated entities need to hold them. They're the safe haven. Everybody outside the US would give their left arm to be capitalized on US bonds,
Yep.
right? So what's really going to happen here, my strategy would be, and I really think it's evil genius strategy, right? If it's like, it's so good, right, that
Yeah.
our enemies would hate us, but our allies would complain too, and the US would make $100 trillion in a heartbeat, right? Here's the strategy. You dump gold, demonetize the entire gold network, you buy Bitcoin, you buy 5 million or 6 million Bitcoin, you monetize the Bitcoin network. All the capital in the world sitting in Siberian real estate or Chinese natural gas or every other currency derivative that's held as a long-term store of value. Europeans, Africans, South Americans, Asians, they all just dump their crappy property and their crappy capital assets and they buy Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin goes to the moon. the US is the big beneficiary. US companies are the big beneficiary. And while you're doing that, you normalize and support digital currency. And you just define digital currency as the US dollar backed by US dollar equivalents in a regulated US custodian that's audited. What happens next? $150 billion of stablecoin goes to $1 trillion, 2, 4, 8, and probably somewhere between 8 and 16 trillion dollars. And you create 10 to 20 trillion dollars of demand for US sovereign debt. And so you're like, while you're taking away a little bit of the demand because the capital asset of Bitcoin grows, you're adding back the demand to back the stable coin. Where does the digital currency goes? It replaces the CNY, the ruble. It replaces every African currency. It replaces every South American currency. It replaces the euro. I mean, if you really believe in US world reserve currency and US values, every single currency in the world will actually just merge into the US dollar if it was freely available. There isn't a stronger currency.
No, there isn't.
There's only currencies pegged to the dollar explicitly, like a DRAM or the CNY, literally pegged to the dollar explicitly. Then there's implicitly pegged to the dollar, like the euro. And then there's currencies collapsing against the dollar. And so what were we on, after World War II, during World War I? We're on the dollar standard. After World War I, the dollar standard. Treaty of Genoa, the dollar standard. Bretton Woods, the dollar standard. And it's like, we're like, oh, we just discovered the dollar standard in 1971. We've been on the dollar standard since we financed World War I for the Brits, right? And we took over the world financial system since then. You want to stay on the dollar standard? You really need to release $10 trillion of digital currency, and then you'll be on the dollar standard. But what I just described basically replaces every currency in the world with the dollar, which the US controls, and it siphons off hundreds of trillions of dollars of 20th century capital assets and half of the capital in the rest of the world. And 75% of the capital of our enemies gets siphoned into Bitcoin. And the big beneficiary is the US government. And after that, every US company, because we're the ones that own and run it.
Yeah.
And so what I'm describing there, you can do for free. Snap your fingers. All you got to do is make the observation. The goal failed as a money and a monetary network in the 16th century for the Spanish. Like, you're not going to save it.
Yeah.
And given the fact it's failed, let's just eliminate the fiction, demonetize it, go to digital gold, sell the past, own the future. Easy.
And there you have it, my friends. Another episode of MicroStrategy Today came at you live. I hope you enjoyed it. To me, there was a lot of exciting things today. Michael Saylor buying a lot more Bitcoin, a lot of people laying out some amazing game theory ideas. Michael Saylor not being able to hit the ATM in late January, early February because of his earnings. And so if Bitcoin is taking off at that price point, watch out above. Again, this is all theory. This is all fun. Who knows? None of this is financial advice. Do your own research. Consult a financial advisor before making any financial decisions whatsoever. I'm just here bringing this content to you, these updates, these insights, these ideas, these thoughts, these possibilities every single day, 7 days a week. So if you like this, I think it's going to be right here. Hit the subscribe button. There's a just button right here that's going to pop up. Hit that subscribe, enjoy, and please remember, there is no second best.